Chris.
Heather, what are you doing here? You could honestly destroy this whole thing for Matt.
I absolutely love Chris Harrison, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's better at hosting reality TV dating shows than he is at acting. Hannah Martin, what are you doing here? We're going to have to go through all of the proper COVID protocols, meaning you're going to have to quarantine, and I'm going to have to talk to a bunch of people just to even approve this idea. So why don't you go back to your hotel and wait a while, and we'll see what we can work out. This is totally unexpected. I did not think that producers would ever do a thing like this. Again, I love Chris Harrison, but his acting chops are about as bad as Victoria's. This is a Bachelor recap from a guy. Now, in honor of this season of The Bachelor, I figured I'd do this episode exclusively from a hotel room. And you can tell I'm in an actual hotel room based off of the extremely generic artwork hanging on the wall. So this week picks up right where we left off last week, with the 2-on-1 date between Jasenia and Swim Fan. So Jasenia goes to talk with Matt first, and MJ pulls off a Bachelor staple, the squat cry. It's been a big year for squat cries. We've gotten a lot of squat cries this season. So after talking to both girls individually, he brings them both together to make his decision.
MJ, I can't give you this rose.
Mainly because we have the same initials, and if anyone said, "Hey MJ," I think we would both turn and look, and it would just be awkward. It's really a shame that someone who promoted harmony and peace would get sent home. Harmony and peace! And Jasenia's like, finally, some harmony and peace. Harmony and peace! So then after the dramatic 2-on-1 date, Matt does what pretty much every guy would have done, just cancels the cocktail party. I'm starting to think Matt's antisocial, but I get it. I mean, it's a total dude move. There's just some nights where like too much estrogen is not something you want to deal with. If it was me, I would have just said, "Hey, can I have the cocktails without the party?" So after he cancels the cocktail party, obviously this upsets the girls. And Serena C just randomly calls out Katie in front of the entire group. And surprisingly not for wearing too much blush, which in my opinion would have been warranted. It looked like she was wearing Broadway theater makeup. Like Raggedy Ann thinks that was too much makeup on the cheeks. Like I'm not exactly sure what she was going for, but I imagine it was something between Snow White, Pikachu, this lady with a cold, the Jigsaw puppet, a knockoff Mickey Mouse, Jigglypuff, Bill from Guess Who, the in love emoji, literally any anime character, that one Snapchat filter, and Santa Claus. Katie was like, "Hi, I'm Katie. Dildos, am I right?" So at the rose ceremony, the only girl that got bounced that I was bummed about was Brittany. But this actually probably works better for her because now she can go back to sleeping with men for money. I am happy to announce that we have a new rivalry this week. Serena versus Katie. They got into a big fight. And really the only takeaway I had from this fight was the amount of hand movement there was in it. It was like two air traffic controllers fighting. This wasn't an MMA fight. This was an ASL fight. And then it ended with this move. "Thank you for your feedback." So then Serena pulls the veteran move and goes immediately to the group. It's not always about winning the argument. It's more about winning the PR battles with the other girls in the house. So this was a great move strategically until Katie came down and basically saw them all talking, and then it just got really awkward. She just joined in on the conversation, and the fight kind of continued, and now the other girls were in it, and it was awkward for us all. Then to something that definitely won't cause any drama later on, Heather Martin shows up. Now, if you remember Heather, she was from Colton's season, so she pulls up in a minivan just wanting to meet Matt James.
Hi, Chris.
Heather, what are you doing here?
"I just want to meet Matt James." Yeah. Get in line, sister. Pretty sure every girl in America just wants to meet Matt James. That'd be like a guy showing up to the set of a new Margot Robbie movie and being like, "My friends all told me that they think I would make a good match with Margot, and so I just want to meet her." The producers would be like,
"We need security down here ASAP."
A little message to ABC's The Bachelor. We love when little wrenches get thrown into plans and little surprise twists happen. But if you could execute those with as little of Chris Harrison acting as possible, I think it would just be better for the believability of the show.
You could honestly destroy this whole thing for Matt.
Again, I love Chris Harrison. I love his hosting. I love his writing. I love everything about him except for his acting skills. We need to keep those to a minimum. So randomly throughout this episode, we just kept getting little vignettes of Heather Martin in her house during quarantine, which was definitely spontaneous and not pre-planned at all. So then comes the 1-on-1 date card, and it's for Piper. And the card says, "Tonight will be worth the wait." Now, obviously, in seasons past, a lot of 1-on-1 dates take place at amusement parks. But I don't know if you heard or not, but COVID. So they set up their own. And this was just like one of those carnivals that they set up in the parking lot of a rundown mall or a movie theater. And there weren't any carnival workers present, which isn't typical. But that means there also weren't any carnival workers' teeth present, which that actually is typical. So that night at dinner, Piper obviously got a rose. And a private show from Temecula Road. Am I saying that right? Temecula Road. It was a private show, not because of COVID, but because that's how many people tend to show up to a Temecula Road concert. No, I'm kidding. They actually sounded pretty dope. And I may or may not have made a playlist solely of Temecula Road songs on Spotify. But all in all, to go back to the date card, this date wasn't really worth the wait. Hey, let's check in on Hannah. Look, I can balance a box on my head. Next up was the group date, and continuing the trend of Bachelor dates that are really just like normal dates that us normal people go on in our normal lives. They went bowling! And if I'm being honest, there were not a lot of Pete Webbers in the bunch. So then Chris Harrison comes out and says they're going to be splitting up into teams, and the losing team has to immediately leave the group date. So you'd think that like whichever team was the first to knock down a pin would win this group date. But apparently in the final round, it was 451 to 449, which tells me that these girls were bowling for 13 straight hours. But the pink team won, and the blue team went back to the hotel just long enough to sulk, because then Matt pulled the old rope-a-dope. I know that's a boxing term, but just we'll use it for this bowling date. Since we currently live in a participation trophy culture, Matt sent another date card to invite the blue team back into the group date, because nowadays everyone gets a trophy. Husband. So Michelle ends up getting the group date rose, which, what did I tell you 2 episodes ago? This girl's locked in for hometown dates. You don't make out with someone in front of a hot air balloon operator named Larry without liking that person. Let's check in on Hannah again. I'm sticking my head out the window. So then later, Tyler C shows up. As if having one insanely attractive male wasn't bad enough for the few of us guys who watch this show, then ABC decided to bring out Tyler Cameron. If you don't know who Tyler C is, then, well, you're clearly not a female on planet Earth. He's the guy from Hannah B's season who looks like Adonis, but like if he was slightly more attractive. Like Tyler C is the kind of guy who can get any girl he wants. Kind of like the Good Doctor. How does the Good Doctor get so many women? I want to know his secret. The only solace I take when Tyler C comes around is the fact that he lost out on his season to a guy who writes dog food jingles for a living. Then comes the one-on-one date with Katie, who, this is random, but she kind of reminds me of Nev Campbell. I don't know if anyone else picks up those vibes. So with this date, we had our own version of Impractical Jokers, but just with extremely attractive people. So Tyler C's still there, and he's getting a massage, but little does he know he's getting it from a paid actor who has to do everything that Matt and Katie tell her to do.
Can you start to work your way to his nipples? Yeah, there you go.
Twist his nipples occasionally, too.
And I'll admit, this is the best paid actor doing crazy things that we've seen since Victoria.
Yeah.
So that night at dinner, Matt told Katie he's just not connecting with her the same ways that he is with other girls in the house.
My relationship with some of the other women in the house has progressed further along than ours has up into this point.
And because she wears enough blush to make it look like she was left out in the cold overnight. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I immediately bought stock in Sephora after this episode. And surprisingly, that's the one stock that Robinhood doesn't block you from buying. But you kind of sense this coming. That's why he left the romantic dates for the other girls and the living out an episode of Punk'd for Katie. And plus, like, guys don't bring their best friends on dates with girls that they like. So it's just a little guy code for you. Sorry, ladies, if a guy ever brings his best friend on a date with you. Not to sound like a magic 8-ball, but the outlook does not look good. So now Katie has to go home to her dildo. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, back at the house, the producer comes in to grab the suitcase. And every girl covered their face. Oh my gosh, it's getting so real. Except for Serena. If I could describe Serena's face in an emoji, it would have been this one. Hey, let's check in on Hannah again. Should I wear this one? I cannot wait to meet him. So naturally, Hannah's quarantine ends right as this episode does. She goes up and she crashes the cocktail party.
Oh.
Always get dessert before I eat dinner, so I would have stopped at the cookie. Mm-hmm. And then I would have either made dinner or we would have gone to like some like low-key spot and had dinner. Yeah. That's right.
Hi. You think I could talk to you for a sec?
Heather?
Which is fine, I guess, but like if they're gonna bring back someone from the show's past this late into the game, why couldn't it be Kim?
You touched my heart, you touched my soul, changed my
I'm
life.
Kimberly, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Love is blind, and that I knew when my heart was blinded by you. Have kissed your lips and held your hand, shared your dreams and shared your bed. I know you well, I know your smell.
I'm Kimberly, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one.
Kimberly, nice to meet
You have been the one for me. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one.
Kimberly, nice
You have been the one for me.
I'm fine. I'm fine. All right, I'll be fine. I said I'm fine. Thanks for watching. And you can tell I'm in an actual hotel room based off of the extremely generic artwork hanging on the wall. And the dump truck driving by. Santa Claus. These dump trucks, man. Sleeping. Damn dump trucks. Damn it, dump truck. How many dump trucks are driving through here? Sleeping with Ron Runner. Sleeping with Ron Runner.